Explained by the Billy Meier contacts. Mysteries, myths, legends, conspiracy theories, historical inaccuracies, and more. Compiled by David Chance, revised October 18, 2023.
Astral projection. Contact Report 015.
First of all, I would like to point out to you that since time, immemorial, innumerable human beings have always claimed that they experienced such wanderings or journeys, or to have carried them out by their own release of power or use of power. However, it is recommended to you to treat such assertions with the very utmost caution, because among 1,000 such assertions, only 2 or 3 are found that stand up to all examinations, and that must be referred to as genuine, in which, however, everything behaves differently than what comes forth from the assertions. A very large, yes, indeed, the largest percentage of such assertions are based thus on malicious deception and on just as malicious conscious lies. Another smaller percentage is based on unconscious lies, as you have already correctly recognized yourself. Such lies are based on fanaticism, delusion or self-deception, etc., because by the self-persuasion of the person in question, he or she would make an astral journey, or that he or she has made one. He or she suggests this to himself or herself for such a long time until it becomes a fixed idea and an illusion. As a result, the sense for reality is lost, and the person in question actually believes that astral traveling is performed. If he or she then asserts this, then he or she lies unconsciously. As I have already explained once, however, this is also the case in other fields of fringe and spiritual sciences, especially with so-called mediums. But astral travel is not possible in truth. That is, it is not reality in the conventionally claimed sense. Also here, a great many different factors are to be taken into account, because hallucinations can arise through self-suggestion. Depending on the imagination of the human being in question, illusions of other worlds can be pulled up, which in reality are effectively only fantasies and have nothing in common with reality. Very popular objects of this kind are other worlds and planets. On this self-suggestion basis, also the past and the future can be pulled up in illusions, which, however, in truth, are only figments of the imagination. Very often, the process of spiritual intuitive vision, which can be triggered unconsciously in every human being, is also referred to as astral traveling. Also, image visions are represented as astral wanderings, and many more other things. The process is also very well known that a human being projects his or her image, illusion, in a consciousness-based manner to any place, and then claims that he or she has carried out an aforementioned wandering. In fact, at the place in question, his or her image can also be seen, yet, however, not in astral form. It appears more like a mirage, transparent but still recognizable. Such images, illusions, can also be brought in from the past and projected into the present or future, which are even photographically recordable. This process is actually very easy once the way is recognized.
Contact Report 023.
So, what about the statements of certain human beings who explained that they flew with UFOs to other planets in our system and saw and spoke to human beings there? And what about those who allegedly want to have made astral migrations to such planets?
It's all nonsense and charlatanry. Especially lately, I have studied many of the books and writings you have given me regarding such reports. It partly mentions planets which would be absolutely too inhospitable for any life and which would not offer any life possibilities to any life forms. In these books, worlds of your system are described as inhabited. which in truth have developed only very minimal single-celled life, and only in millions of years become capable of carrying higher forms of life, if at all. The above-mentioned visits in beam ships or in the form of astral wanderings are therefore nothing more than charlatanry or very bad self-deceptions that arise from fantastic dreams, delusions, or misconceptions.
Contact Report 250.
Whereby the so-called supernatural, of course, does not exist in any way. Because everything is always naturally explainable, and also naturally given. The supernatural exists only in the ignorance and the incomprehension of man, because he has no knowledge about all those things which he cannot understand and cannot explain himself. Truthfully, everything so-called supernatural is absolutely natural, and thus also classified according to the corresponding laws of spirit or matter, which are able to give an explanation for everything and everyone, whereby something supernatural becomes a fact of non-existence. Everything that can be grasped and perceived, everything that can be seen and heard, and everything that can be felt, recognized, experienced, etc., is always real and natural in every case, regardless of whether it takes place on a spiritual or material level, or on a medium level between spirit and matter, which is so often called the level of the supernatural, or the supernatural by parapsychologists and esoterics who do not understand it.
A true word.
Astrology, horoscopic astrology, see also planet symbols. Contact Report 017.
The only thing that is largely ascertainable about you is the character traits of astrological destiny in a general sense, as they are largely applicable to all those in general who belong to a certain sign of the zodiac.
Contact Report 054.
But something else, we do astrology on Earth, right?
Of course, it is a science that can be traced back to our ancestors and which we still cultivate today. With you, however, it has lost most of its actual values and truths.
I am aware of that. But how does astrology work for you?
In the same forms as on Earth, of course, but with different planets and different overall perspectives. These constellations have been known on Earth since ancient times by our common ancestors, and the same images have also been passed down to us. Seen from our Pleiades, however, their positions are very shifted, and so, seen for us, they result in a different arrangement and a different picture. Our astrology, however, is naturally based on different constellations and values in our space structure than is the case on the Earth.
Contact Report 066.
Each individual planet symbol contains very particular and special values which are peculiar to the planet in question, but which are also transmitted to all forms of life in terms of vibration, according to which they align themselves in their characters and exhibit corresponding characteristics which are expressed in the physical, psychical, and consciousness-based realms.
Aha, so these are already the astrological aspects, are they not?
Sure, but all planets as well as the Sol star and the galaxy central sun are important in this respect, whereby time plays a very dominant role. In the exact astrological determination value, the determination of time up to the second value is of enormous importance. A factor which is unfortunately not considered by the Earth astrologers because they only want to calculate their evaluations according to minutes, which inevitably leads to inaccurate or only approximately correct results.
You mean that the horoscopes are not very accurate?
Sure, only in isolated cases are they very accurate, namely when the number of seconds is combined with a full minute number.
Then how is it with human beings, for example? What has to be considered as birth time?
The exit of the skull of the newborn.
This means that the time of birth is not the moment when the newborn human being has already left the womb completely, but the moment when the newborn person, as you say, presses his or her skull cap through the cervix and is practically confronted with the outside world.
Sure.
But why is that? That the human is not born yet, because the birth process is still taking place.
You do not consider that the importance of the process lies in the fact that as soon as the skull of the newborn is exposed to the environment, its influences become noticeable in concentrated form and penetrate through the skull of the newborn. This can actually only happen with the moment of the release of the skull or the skull cap, because still embedded in the womb, a natural protective belt prevents this process, whereby the nascent human being is able to develop his or her basic character in the womb in peace and quiet, which is already tuned to his or her time of birth. The external influences of fully effective radiations and vibrations complete the whole thing and round it off.
I find that ingenious. Therefore, many birth time data might not be correct thereby.
Sure.
Contact Report 077.
Not only the treacherous elements in the group and the negative intelligences of Giza and the group in Brazil drive a malicious play of forces, but also the constellations of the stars and planets assert their influence in the strongest form. A particular danger lies with them in their dealings with their means of locomotion, because in this line, not only is a negative influence exerted on them by the malignant intelligences and the constellation-swinging waves of the stars, but also because they are influenced by the negative utterances of third persons, which are partly life-threatening forms, or which at least raise doubts about the truth. These are forms of expressions and assertions which are applied to them, which are able to cause a strong thought contemplation at the wheel while driving, which can lead to bad accidents.
Contact Report 093.
A quite confused form of thinking, as you can see, but very typical in particular for your wife, but also in general for all her loyal and erroneous ones. Some of them born in the same sign of the zodiac Scorpio as she, because their forms of thinking are very confused and full of unfulfillable fantasies. This is the rule at any rate, but also the fact that an uncontrolled and unfounded urge for destruction always breaks through, which is unfortunately completely disregarded by your so-called astrologers with such failures, because they proceed from completely wrong basic pre-assumptions concerning the swinging wave implications of the stars, etc.
Contact Report 094.
Many superwise people rely on the stars and claim that they will bring this and that to the human beings of the earth in the current or coming year. But how can the human being decipher these coming events from the stars if he or she has long since lost the necessary knowledge about them?
Contact Report 831.
I also want to say that the interpretation of the signs of the zodiac is actually nonsense, and I do not want to beat about the bush anymore, namely about the nonsense that astrologers tell. Because of what you say, that Svath gave permission to speak, I can now also say that what astrologers usually say, for example, is pure nonsense. Now it is time for me not only to repeat what is generally said incorrectly about astrology, but also to correct what I have previously explained incompletely, which may have created some confusion. To this end, I have now to explain and elucidate the following. Astrology concerning the qualities of human beings is based on a completely erroneous and general uniformity. All the variously given character traits are equally and without exception peculiar to each individual human being, but each human being specifically according to his or her personal evolutionary development and according to their personal interests in their life development and their individual life character formation and personal character formation emphasizes these or those traits, and thus makes them absolutely personal character traits. Accordingly, the human being consequently acquires this or that character trait, while another human being, in turn, aligns themselves to various other character instances, and therefore to a corresponding and completely different behavior, etc. Consequently, there are different groupings with different character qualities of behavior, etc., whereby these groupings are divided by astrology into 12 signs of the zodiac, that is to say, are attributed to them as qualities. This, however, is thoroughly incorrect, for all the many qualities are available to all human beings and can be used and developed individually. The only question is which of them the human being develops out of their own personal individual interest, and then makes it their own behavior as a fixed character trait. This depends on the parental and environmental influences in which the young human being grows up and consequently forms their character, which is then astrologically attributed to this or that birth sign or zodiac sign according to character peculiarities, whereby it is then said that this or that character trait corresponds to this or that zodiac sign. This, however, is pure nonsense, because it is given to every human being that they can form their own character according to the influence of their parents and environment, because the human being is given all the qualities for forming their character and their behavior, as well as their own manner of doing things, such as their profession, etc., so that they can develop their own character or activity according to their own interests, whatever they want from their own free will. Thus, all character traits and modes of behavior in every respect can, in principle, be freely chosen by every human being according to their interests and can be developed by them. Consequently, it is absolutely up to them which character traits and behavior they acquire and develop. Therefore, it is a given that in addition to all the character traits and all the behaviors that are simply attributed to a certain sign of the zodiac, there are also other types and characteristics of character and behaviors that are completely foreign to the sign of the zodiac that are given or exhibit and appear. Consequently, it must be stated that it is completely nonsensical to evaluate human beings according to the sign of the zodiac and according to the date of birth, because such an evaluation is simply fundamentally wrong and, as a rule, brings with it, in terms of belief, that the human being evaluated in this wise is completely different, or even deviant as a result of the incorrectness of the evaluation of the sign of the zodiac in every respect, and is in part even evaluated and treated in a contemptuous and inhuman manner.